your day. Escape from some of the tension in society, hang out, watch sports, and also, if you like intellectual conversation, if you like sports dialogue, if you like to learn, if you like to laugh, you're in the right place. That is Dave Hellman, NFL insider, NFL analyst, NFL host of the NFL on Fox podcast. Dave and I have known each other for about a decade.
Yeah, dude.
Almost a decade.
Having fun, buddy.
Been covering the Cowboys for over a decade, knows all things about all things. So this will be phenomenal anytime I'm talking to him. Y'all know James Jones, Super Bowl champ, led the NFL in receiving touchdowns. And James, I got to start with this. And I want to start with you because I recently saw that NFL executives, coaches, and scouts around the whole NFL, they were asked to rank the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC. Now, you played 8 of your 9 years in the NFC, so you know all about NFC good quarterback play. Stafford, Love, Dak, Murray, Daniel Jones, Hurts, amongst others. And this was the list by executives, coaches, etc. Stafford at 1, Goff at 2, Prescott at 3, Purdy at 4, Jordan Love at 5. Noticeably absent was Jalen Hurts, not among the top 5 NFC, not NFL family, NFC quarterbacks. Again, if you like really good conversation, you're in the right place. Turn up your volume, relax for a while. We appreciate you watching. You could be watching any show. You're hanging here with us. We promise to make it worth your while if we've done our work to get this show into a great position. James, let me start with you, big dog. Do you have an issue with Jalen Hurts, a quarterback that's been to a Super Bowl, being left off the list of top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC?
Well, I actually want to host the show today. So, because I got a bone to pick with you two over here. So I want you two to go first on this right here. Because I want to be able to come back at y'all with some stuff. So let's get it going. Dave, I want to start with you on this.
I'm ready.
Jalen Hurts left off the top 5.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? Is this right?
Here's, okay. Host James. All right, yeah, forget what's going on over here.
By the way, I had no idea this was happening, so I'm in for a treat.
In general, these summer lists are what bother me, and the way that everything gets reshifted with recency bias. Like, the most recent thing that happened almost feels like the only thing that happened. So I have beef with a lot of this list for that very reason. I think Jared Goff is a little bit too high here. I think you could argue Brock Purdy, based on what he did last year, deserves to be a little bit higher. Don't get mad at me over there in your Packer green. Jordan Love, phenomenal. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I wonder if we've seen enough of a sample size to have him as high. And so in that regard, yes, I have a problem with Jalen Hurts' placement on this because, yeah, he had a down season, but this is still a guy that's been all-pro. This is still a guy that's played lights out in a Super Bowl. I do have a problem with him just completely dropping off the list. At the same time, I don't feel angry or offended by it because I do think Jalen Hurts has some very big questions in his game that need to get answered. But I will say, sorry, not to cut you off, Acho.
Go ahead, sir.
For instance, Jalen Hurts' body of work to this point is better than Jordan Love's. I love where Jordan Love is heading. But things like that are what make me pause and say, right now, today, are we ready to say that? So that's where I'm at.
So hold on.
Go ahead, sir.
Before you go.
He wasn't kidding, by the way.
Before you go. We sat up here on this show last week.
Yes, we did.
And we argued.
Yep.
And I said that there's nothing that Jalen Hurts can do better than Dak Prescott.
Except run his own read.
Except win and run his own read. That was y'all, right? Dak Prescott is on this list and probably should be a little higher if you ask me.
Are you taking a victory lap right now?
Jalen Hurts is not on this list.
He's not at all.
It's valid.
It is.
And from what I heard in the meetings, you don't have a problem with it, but you argue with me that he's better than Dak. Break that down.
Yes, sir. Two things. And this, I think, is maybe my most inarguable take. It's my most inarguable
I'm ready to listen.
Ready for it.
I don't have an issue with it. I believe that Jalen Hurts is better than Dak. I think that Jalen Hurts is better than Dak because when push comes to shove, Jalen Hurts, he wins in the playoffs. Dak Prescott does not. But the reason I don't have an issue with this list is very, 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 very simple. If you look at the quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl, and the objective of playing the quarterback position is to win a Super Bowl, in the last 15 years, I want you to look at the prototype of statistic of quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. On average, 30 passing touchdowns, James Jones, 1 rushing touchdown, and on average, the winning quarterback who wins the Super Bowl has 174 rushing yards in a season. So if you're looking for a quarterback to win you a Super Bowl, on average, over a 15-year sample size, you're looking for 30 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown a season, and 174 rushing yards a season. What Jalen Hurts does is incredible. He has 20 passing touchdowns. Obviously, he has those 13 rushing touchdowns, and he rushes for over 700 yards. But what we've realized is it just doesn't necessarily win you a Super Bowl. So if you are creating your list of quarterbacks that you prefer based upon what it takes, historically speaking, to win Super Bowls, then I would want to find quarterbacks that fit the criteria of winning Super Bowls. That is Matthew Stafford. That is Dak Prescott. That isn't a limited 2-year sample size Brock Purdy. That is Jared Goff. That isn't a very limited sample size Jordan Love. It's not to say that what Jalen Hurts does isn't fantastic, but if you are creating your list of best quarterbacks based upon who's the quarterback that looks most like Super Bowl champions look, then Jalen Hurts is not on that list. Until quarterbacks come along who look like Jalen and play like Jalen and win Super Bowls. Obviously, I don't mean look by skin color. I mean look by style of play. Until the Michael Vick had come along and won a Super Bowl, or the Cam Newton had come along and won a Super Bowl, or the Rob Griffin had come along and won a Super Bowl, or the Tim Tebow had come along and won a Super Bowl, or the Daniel Jones had come along and won a Super Bowl, or the Lamar Jackson had come along and won a Super Bowl, until we see a quarterback play a similar style of ball. What I mean by that is a quarterback who rushes for over 700 yards annually and has 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns annually. Until we see that happen, I am not mad at the person who says, I don't want that quarterback. I'm not mad at them. I might not agree with them, but James, I'm not mad at that person.
So I truly believe, because I think this is highway robbery with Jalen Hurts not being on this list. And y'all know I'm a Packer through and through in the way I feel about Jordan Love. Brock Purdy's a really good player, but this is an all-pro quarterback that has been to a Super Bowl and helped his team get to a Super Bowl. So from that standpoint, I think it's highway robbery, and that's why I don't think they looked into it like you looked into it.
Okay.
I think they turned the tape on, and they said at the quarterback spot, throwing this football, getting this ball out of their hand, making everybody around them better, these are the 5 quarterbacks that have been doing that. That's what I think this list is saying. So that's why I asked you, with them turning the tape on and watching this, I believe they left Jalen Hurts off the list for that reason. And that's why I stood up here and said that Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts when you take out the read option and you take out winning, even though Dak wins too, but he ain't been to a Super Bowl. Because he does not look like those dudes standing in the pocket throwing this ball when you're playing the quarterback spot.
Does that matter to y'all? And viewer at home, I'll ask you the same question, obviously rhetorically for you all, but does it matter that a quarterback doesn't necessarily look like another quarterback if he still has the same yield, if he still has the same, like your receiver, you led the league in touchdowns, so of anybody on national television, you can answer the question best. Does it matter that Jalen doesn't look like Matthew Stafford to you?
Well, it matters only for the receiver. If you play a different position, a running back, O-line, defense, it don't matter what your quarterback look like. For a receiver, you want the Matthew Staffords, you want the Jared Goffs, you want the Dak Prescotts that's not really running nowhere, that's standing in the pocket, taking a shot, delivering the football, throwing the ball. That's what he wants to do. You don't want, as crazy as it may say, as a receiver, you're not necessarily saying, I'd rather go from a Jared Goff to a Lamar Jackson or to a Jalen Hurts, because you know part of their game, a lot of it is running the ball, which means you're going to limit your opportunities. But if you're trying to win, as you know as a defender, it's harder to defend guys like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson because of that.
It's a good question. Dave, I was thinking about this. If someone were to ask me, Acho, who are the 5 hardest NFC quarterbacks to game plan? Kyler would probably be one. Jalen would be 2.
Jalen would be,
Like for me as a defender, because now as a defender, when you're thinking about defending, you could have everybody covered. But the problem when you're facing a mobile quarterback is if you turn your back for a second, he could take off and run. Defensively, scheming-wise, James, you know this, Dave, I'm sure you know this as well, you can't call certain things. Like cover 5, which is man-to-man on the outside, corners are guarding the receivers, a safety's guarding a tight end, a linebacker's guarding another running back. You can't necessarily call cover 5 on like 3rd and 6 or less, because if the linebacker turns his back to go guard Saquon Barkley, next thing you know, the quarterback's going to turn and run. So now on 3rd and 6 or less, you got to call cover 2, and you got to make sure all eyes are on the quarterback. You quite literally have to change the way you call your football game predicated upon a quarterback's ability to run. So, Dave, if I were making the list based upon most difficult to game plan, it would look different. But the list is top quarterback.
I will tell you why this bothers me. And I mean, I love watching Jalen Hurts play. I love watching mobile quarterbacks. I mean, Kyler and Lamar Jackson are two of the most electrifying players. Lamar Jackson is an interesting comparison because as he's gotten older,